Kyle here from All Media Reviews, here to do another Kevin Gilbert Thud tracks. We're getting down toward the end here. Today it's the track All Fall Down, so there's 4 versions, and just going over that as I always do on this series. Well, it there's the standard, of course, version here that's 5 minutes. I wrote a lot of notes down again, of course. Trying to 5 minutes and 37 seconds. Second to last track on here, standard Thud. Then there's the 20th anniversary 2015 version, the extra version that was known as the Toto version. And that one's 5:44, so it's just a little bit longer. And then the Thud alternate, just a few months ago, I keep on saying, came out with, there's a version titled, where is it? Alt Horn Mix. And that one's a little bit longer. I think that's the one that's 6 minutes and 7 seconds. And then the original version, I believe, I'm like doing my research stuff, showed up was done by Kevin's band Giraffe on their second album, The View From Here, which, if I can squeeze it in here, this album celebrates 35-year anniversary, because it came out, I believe it was first week of April of 1989. So anyway, going over it, I guess it's the second to last track on here. You know, what's All Fall Down, the song, I've always known. I've always liked it. It's kind of slower though, and it definitely has this sort of like telling the end of a story, kind of closing out. It's a song that to me fits best at the end, toward the end of the album. I mean, I can see why it was second to last. Kind of summarizing some events and sort of going over it in a way. And okay, so I went over after listening to all the versions today. There's a little bit of an irony about what happened in the news today. It's kind of weird. It's almost just probably purely coincidence, but it just kind of hit me when I was doing this. It has like a classic, almost crooner element to it. This song. I mean, it's slower. It has like it almost sounds like it wasn't on Nuts or Bolts. Bolts would be the one in the compilations. A version of it wasn't, probably because it was on, but you think another version could have been, because it reminds me of songs like The Best of Everything and God's Been Tapping Your Phone. That sort of singer-songwriter piano, like Elton John, Randy Newman, Sinatra, very classy kind of, ballad from a musical standpoint. It's like a piano ballad in some ways. But, so talking about specifically the version on Thud, besides that, starts out with the horns, which I always think of the trumpet. I think it's like multiple layers of it, and trombone. Among many lines, it's like talking about the end of the world, the end of our lives, between two like warring factions or multiple warring factions. At war. This is but kind of making light and levity of it. A little bit like I always think I've known about this before I saw that movie, but that movie, Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, it's like we're going to watch the world blow up and end. Kind of like at the end of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, when they go to the end of the restaurant at the end of the universe. We're going to go to the restaurant, have some food, and watch the end of the universe. That line, don't blink or you'll miss it, it's the end of free will. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, okay, we're looking at the way things are right now, and we're not going to, freak out. We're just going to let it happen. And just, that was it. That was our lives. That was the way things were, and now they're ending. But we're just going to celebrate the way things have been and were. But that first part is slow. Then the tempo changes a little bit. It gets a little more up tempo. Not that much, but a little bit. That line, turn the radio up and pass the ball around. We'll look real sharp as we all fall down. Dressing like in a tux. He's going out to celebrate basically the end of the world. I think of that song Tucson by Marillion. That always, and Fish, I always think of when I hear that. And there's a lot of Marillion and Kevin Gilbert connections I've found. I mean, and I'm strongly passionate about my interest for both of them. I don't know if that's coincidence either, but that's maybe why I think about it. But the snare drum with the trumpet has like, yeah, and then there's like this march that almost sounds like a Beatles thing with the trumpet. But, you know, that warring faction lyrics, understandable grudge, you know, there's an understandable grudge. Now we wait, the line, and now we wait quietly until the missile, he says, arrives. There's no need to shout out about the end of our lives. I mean, there it is. It's like, this is what's happening. We're going to blow each other up. You know, Kevin wrote a lot of lyrics, a lot of songs that were about war, about, you know, about government, about, you know, the fascism, and about, you know, destroying each other, about environment, about, you know, military and science is going to destroy the world, the planet that we have. But it's celebratory on this song, lyrically, and the tone in an ironic way. It's almost like dark humor, black humor. Like there's like some organ on where he sings "Building and Bridges," and then of course what always stands out at the end of this song is the whole vocal harmonies. Na 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 na, down down down. He chants that, I don't know how many times, 5, 6, 7 times. Na 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 na. It's very catchy. Na 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 na. And we all fall down. You know, it's like basically we're all, yeah. And thinking about Marillion and Clutching at Straws, that song, or not Clutching at Straws. I think it's the end of Misplaced Childhood. Together we stand, divided we fall. That's kind of a similar idea. And he chants like the hey hey hey, we all fall down, and then you hear some synths. So yeah, I've always liked it, but it's sort of just it's another one of these slower ballady kind of pieces, but it's more ironic than some of the other ballads on this album, on Thud. So now comparing it to the other versions. So first off, the Toto version from the 20th anniversary. It's way more like, if it can be, stripped down. It starts out with piano instead of horns, and it's like he's at a nightclub, kind of like Jeff Baker and the Fabulous Baker Boys, or you know, just the crooner type. Again, I'm getting the Sinatra element, even maybe more so on this. Very piano driven, but then there's some electric guitar, and it's very more romantic, chill, sad. I mean, the tempo is even slower, and yeah, I mean it's kind of unplugged in a way. I mean, while the guitar is electric guitar, it's more like unplugged or acoustic. He stretches out the word about the end of our lives and says we all fall down multiple times over the guitars. The guitar really is featured, but then parts of this version also has a lot of piano that's featured. He hangs out the note down, and then oh yeah, we all fall down over the piano and the guitar. He's wailing in the background. His vocals are also mixed lower. I've noticed on that. Yeah, I mean, even the drums are a little. You hear more of the snare drum at points. Just the last couple of minutes. It's just the guitar solo. It's clean, almost jazzy guitar. You hear some bass. But yeah, I mean, yeah, and then the piano is just, I don't know, it's like kind of like a mixture. I mean, the guitar to me is the most noticeable thing, but the piano, I think, drives this piece the most of the three primary instruments. But yeah, I mean, it's similar but different. I mean, it definitely is the sort of stripped down piano man version of it. I'm not talking about Billy Joel's Piano Man, but that kind of style. I mean, I could easily see the style of song that All Fall Down is, even though it's the version that ended up on the standard Thud featured horns more so. It totally lent to be a piano-driven track, and I can see why he did a version with the piano. So, and you know that jazzy guitar, even though it's electric. So now moving on to the version that just came out a few months ago, Thud Alternate. It's 6 minutes and 7 seconds, and it's pretty similar to like a lot of versions on here to the standard, but it's longer. It's like 30 seconds longer, something like that. How long is the standard? 5? Yeah, it's 30 seconds longer. So it's 6 minutes and 7 seconds. He does change a few lyrics. Turn the radio up and pass the ball around, and then we'll have one more dance before we all fall down. the word dance. He says drink in the standard on that verse. Now he uses that word drink later. Let's see. So there's a snare drum part with the march that's similar. Won't be long now. One will make a stand he believes in. Believing is it's well worth the cost. It's almost like these people are like, yeah, they're making a stand. They're going to sacrifice themselves for the better good because it's what they believe in, and that's more important than compromising and dealing with, you know, this conflicts. The chorus after the last verse is a little different. So turn the radio up and pass the ball around. Then I'll have one more drink before we all fall down. Yeah, I mean he switched up a lyric or two with drink and dance. So come on, sing this song. We'll make a joyful sound. We'll be singing. Yeah, that line isn't identical. On the standard version he goes, and we can sing this song. We'll make a joyful sound instead of so come on, sing this song. We'll make a joyful. It's almost the same, but not identical. We'll be singing na na na. Now we all fall down. When we all fall down. Then he does the whole hey 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 ha ha. We all fall down. Na 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 na. We all fall down. But then the last, I want to say minute, maybe it's 30 seconds, you get a really cool trumpet solo. It's horns. It's really, I think it's a trumpet, just a trumpet solo. It almost sounds a little like Pat Metheny, the synclavier synth, but I think it is trumpet. It's a lot of, and then you have these horns that are layered that are really cool. But yeah, I mean that's the biggest differences. Again, this resembles the one from Thud, from the actual standard Thud, more than the Toto version, the piano version. So then the last version, of course, as I talked about at the beginning, the giraffe version from The View From Here is it's the fourth track on here, which now thinking about it more today, I really like this record. It's among the Kevin catalog, it's in the middle for me, but I mean, I've always kind of preferred it over Power of Suggestion, but it's really splitting hairs. I can almost make an argument for the Power of Suggestion. Having this track be the fourth track, it lyrically is weird. Now, musically, I can understand, because this is this is the original version. This is with the giraffe guy, Stan Cody on guitar, and Chris Beveridge, I believe, on bass. Yeah, and he's featured. This version it's more, you could say, let's see, where is it? Anniversary, I put it first here. It starts out with trumpet and trombone, so unlike the version on the Toto version, it does resemble that, but I think it's more than just, it's more layered. It's more than two horns. But the vocal part is still softly spoken, but of course Kevin at this point in 1988 when they recorded this was singing a little higher range, because when he was doing Thud, he was re-recording this and rearranged it. His vocal range was as more natural and lower range, where it was like a tenor. Yeah, I mean it has that crooner-like element. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong notes. I knew something was off with this. Yeah, okay. Check that. I meant to say this has more of a smooth jazz element. It opens with sax, not horns. I totally, because I did this like a couple hours ago. So yeah, he's singing more like in a higher range, but it has more of a jazz arrangement, and it opens with saxophone. So some of the lyrics are different. I didn't completely compare everything, but a lot of them are the same. Some of them are moved around a little bit. There's one line, "Be watching closely, you'll be impressed." But then he has that part after he sings the verses, "Ashes to ashes, down, down, down." It's very jazzy, very kind of dissonant or minor key. They all fall down, building and bridges, while we just stand around. It's not identical, but the tone is a little different, and it's faster. It's not super fast, but it's a faster tempo. But then also the bass is very featured. It's very funky. So that's what I'm talking about, Chris Beveridge from Giraffe. Some keys are in the background, adds like a sort of, it's in the more in the background. It's a bed of synths, really. So then he has the line, "Fueled by some understandable grudge, there's no need to shout out about the end of our lives, down, down, down. They all fall down. Someone unlocked the big cage, and the beast cannot be found. Cities and nations all leveled to the ground." I mean, it's pretty similar, but again, a couple words are different, and the way they're put together a few years earlier when Giraffe did this song. There's a lot of 80s sounding pitch bending synths on this. And then the line, it started up as untamed anger. This line is definitely not in any of the other versions. It started up as untamed anger, but we can't erase our history. It's in our eyes, it's in our hearts, it's in our hand. We're just what we thought we would be. That's toward the end. That's after, I think, the main verse, the second or third verse. But around the 4-minute mark, there's this doubling guitar and sax part that gets almost happy and dancey or catchy. It builds, it's very jazzy, like most of it. Some great piano phrasing and an alto sax solo. And then the last couple of minutes is all instrumental. I mean, it's pretty much that. It's really da 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 da. It's almost like a dance or a rhythm. I mean, every one of these versions, this song itself is in tone happy, even though lyrically it's so dark and it's that sort of schizophrenic or what's that word, where things are very incongruous or very ironic. Bubble Math did it. A lot of bands have done that. Steven Wilson, I believe, has done it, or Porcupine Tree. But there's a quote from some movie. I didn't Google the line, but I wrote down the quote. It's from some movie or TV show, I'd guess. It goes, now we wait quietly until the miss... No. I wrote too many notes down here. There's a sample at the end here, and it took me like 10 minutes to get this right, and I don't know what... Well, there it is. The only Messiah we shall see this year staggers to and fro on the Lower East Side, being laughed or whacked at. I think it's laughed at by housewives in Edsel automobiles, which Edsel automobiles is an old-fashioned. A lot of the lyrics on this album, and lyrics were kind of pointing toward like the generation before the baby boomers that had things in the 50s and 60s and sort of the issues with society, and that kind of is a stereotype about laughing Edsel automobiles. But yeah, so that's about it. Yeah, okay. I really like All Fall Down, but again, it's not a song I think of when I think of Thud. But I mean, these versions are different. The only thing about the version on the Giraffe version, I always think of that saxophone, that dun. It really has this sort of like it's ending any real tension, and like the first 3 tracks, Home, Progress, I love that suite, and From Here to There, are kind of more serious. I mean, they're bright and melodic, but more serious, talking about environment and the animals being extinct and whatever. All Fall Down is really kind of like a change in gears, but again, I think from a lyrical standpoint, it still might have fit better later in the record, but I don't know. But on Thud, it's sort of, it fits with a lot of the lyrical themes, the sarcastic sort of critical element, but it's always been a song about, it's like, well, things suck, the world's ending, these different factions are going to kill each other, they're going to destroy our planet, but we can't do anything about it, so let's just celebrate, and while we still have time, let's just celebrate and have a party, and then it's all over. It's been a great run, so but that's about it for All Fall Down. What do you think of All Fall Down? I'm gonna go on to the final standard track on Thud, Song for a Dead Friend, which is by a lot of people's counts and people that aren't even that big Gilbert fans that know Thud, is his most sort of melancholy, darkest, like most powerful song ever, actually. I'll give my overall take, but I'll just say I don't necessarily have the same identical feeling. Granted, I'm going to kind of review all the versions, of course, and looking at the different versions of Song for a Dead Friend. There's the standard version. Then the 20th anniversary has 2 versions. There's a Song for Michael demo, which I believe Michael's the name of the real friend that it's about. And then there's the guitar mix. The guitar mix is 6 minutes and 20 seconds, which is longer than the standard. And then there's a version on Thud Acoustic, which I have over there. Break my back in the process. There's a version on here, and there's a version on Thud Alternate. So we got a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, I think. 1, 2, 3. There's 5 versions. So it's been kind of standard. It's kind of standard for a lot of these. There's 5 versions. And then, as I've talked about, I'll just kind of go over it really quickly too. I'm going to do a video on some of the other tracks that were relevant and they're included in this version especially, because that was the whole point of this thing, is I wanted to kind of dissect and talk about more of the details on here. There's Kashmir, the cover of Kashmir, which there's a couple different versions of that. Then there's the song Waking the Sun, which there's a version on here, which is instrumental, and then there's a version on Bolt. That was the one I got to know. And then there's a song called Until I Get Her Back, which is a version on the Nuts compilation, and then a version on here. And then I'll probably also do one video on just 2 tracks that were relevant. I could maybe talk about the Troubadour versions, but Live of the Troubadour, Miss Broadway, and Big Heart. And there's some notes that I've talked about, but I'll repeat stuff about the reference between. Oh, I wanted just to add one thing about, they talk about bridges going down in here, which is just kind of unfortunate that I'm talking about it on today, on this news about what happened in Baltimore, Maryland, with this bridge collapsing with this boat. I mean, it made me think about the 35W bridge, 2007. I actually was at the movie, that Neil Gaiman movie, Stardust, at the Lagoon Theater when that happened, but I had crossed over the bridge literally like 2 hours, 3 hours before. So if timing had not been on my side, I wouldn't be here today necessarily. I would have been through a traumatic experience, but it's just ironic how the lyric bridges, let's see if I even, yeah, I did. Building and bridges collapsing or all fall down. I'm talking about that, well, a song with that lyrics, all fall, build bridges fall down, the day that what happened. I mean, a really sad story. I don't know if it's going to be so dramatic in terms of loss of life. There's, right now, what I've heard, there were 8 people missing. 2 of them had found. There's 6 people still missing, but that was completely coincidental. I don't know. I just found it really weird. So, but anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.